Welcome to this first podcast where Sinisha and me are going to give you an introduction into personal finance. Hi, my name is Ivana.
And my name is Tanisha.
In this podcast, Sinisha and me are going to get into a couple of topics regarding to personal finance. And the first one that we're going to start out with is where we think problems with personal finance start off with. Then next, we're going to get into why we got involved in personal finance. And then finally, we're going to get into how getting into personal finance and getting that under control completely changed our lives and what it can mean for your life. So, Sinisha, let's start off with the first topic. Where do problems, sorry.
No worries.
Where do problems with personal finance come from according to you?
I think it's a few things. For those that don't know us, we both run our own businesses. So I live in Hong Kong and Ivana in India. And I run my own business as an executive coach. Ivana, you do more than just being a coach.
Yes, I'm also a business consultant, a public speaker, and a content creator.
Yeah, so I think from our experiences, where we see really the problem coming from is actually lack of attention within the educational system from a younger age about finances. And that kind of snowballs into plenty of people within this world not necessarily being able to manage their own personal finances.
Yeah, and I think it also actually comes from the parents as well, because obviously they have been through the same education system. So if the education system in the first place is lacking, information and courses and knowledge about personal finance and how to apply that in daily life, obviously the parents are also going to, transfer that lack of knowledge to their children. I think in our situation, in general, our parents have been extremely responsible. For the people who don't know us, we are Balkan War refugees who came to the Netherlands with only our parents and obviously us, brother and sister. But when we came to the Netherlands, we had nothing. And that's where I think our parents taught us the first lessons on personal finance, because I remember mom telling the story over and over again. When it was time for them to leave the Balkan, because they were a mixed marriage suddenly overnight, they didn't have any savings. They would always spend all their paychecks and just didn't keep anything aside for unexpected situations like this. And the way that they were able to pay that journey through to the Netherlands was my dad by accident finding an envelope with a bunch of money in his office while he was clearing it out. So they got very lucky with that, but that's also something that I will never forget. Mom has always taught us, like, you need to save, and I think later on we will get into like why saving in these times doesn't necessarily work anymore. But I'll never forget that story. That I think has been a very important lesson that I personally have always applied to my personal finance. How about you?
Same thing. I think through our parents' experience, they learned and started off helping us when we grew up in the Netherlands. They learned that saving is incredibly important.
Yeah.
I also from out throughout school, personally for me, there wasn't anything really related about finance.
No.
Math, of course, you would get there, but until my university days, I did not have anything around management accounting. I did not have anything about statistics. I didn't even, they wouldn't even teach you how to, let's say, buy or sell stocks or read anything around investments and those kind of things. So you'd have to be exposed to it in one form or another through someone. So I think if our parents did invest, there would be a very high chance that we would get something out of it in terms of investments, index funds, and those kind of things. But because they didn't and the school didn't, it was very hard for us to actually get to that point. Unless, I think, if you have friends that do either investment or run their own business or anything like that, then you have more chance to get exposed to it.
Yeah, I've definitely seen a massive difference between children who are from a business family and children who are not. Because they just learn more about how to build value, which is something that I learned, I think, only 1 year ago, or maybe 2 years ago, by reading the
It's
book.
never too late.
I know,
Which book
right?
was it?
Poor Dad, Rich Dad. It
Yeah.
was mind-boggling just reading that book and understanding the biggest difference in, income versus building value. It was massive. It really changed my perspective on how you should treat money and how, saving is not always the answer. You have to invest money in order for it to grow, because obviously also,
True.
especially nowadays, the interest rates on savings have gone down to almost zero. So your money is
Yeah,
not
it's
making
not
money
like
for
the
you,
best.
while
No.
at the same time the inflation, even though I think nowadays it's manageable, but still, you know, uh, you're just losing money if you're putting it in savings, and that
I
was
do
something.
agree. I do
Yeah,
agree.
I really learned that from that book.
I think one of the interesting things is as well compound interest. We can go. I know we will
Yeah.
go into that a lot later as well. So probably not in this podcast, but whoever is
No,
interested
yeah.
and doesn't know about it,
Google
you
it,
could.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There will be YouTube is your friend. There will be a lot of stuff on it.
Yeah.
But to be honest, it's mind-boggling that when we got taught to save, have an emergency fund, and put all your money onto the bank, now that suddenly doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
Whereas if you'd come from a business family, you'd realize a lot of things are actually different. You and I, we come from a corporate work life, so we've been employees for a very, very long time, so we've seen the difference. The thing that startled me the most, I think you mentioned this to me previously, is like when you get your paycheck, the first thing that's deducted from your paycheck, at least in the Netherlands, is your tax.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So you don't even have a choice on what to spend it or potentially invest that tax and get it in return.
Yeah.
Whereas in a business, the first thing when you do get paid by another client, the first thing you do is remove all your expenses from it, which are tax deductible, which is crazy. So at home, when I pay for my internet and electricity, I have to pay it out of pocket. In my business, if I pay for electricity and internet, it goes off of my tax deductibles.
Yeah,
What a
exactly.
world!
Exactly.
That was to me really.
It was
really
mind-boggling. Yeah.
crazy.
So
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
this might also be the moment, because you already mentioned it. Like, how did our perspective shifts? Because we were both employed in the corporate world, where we just had a paycheck at the end of the day, and with the taxes already deducted, so everybody already took their share, and only after that you get your money as your income. This is a great moment to get into how our perspective on personal finance changed. And if you allow me, I'll start, because for me, it was a couple of people around me who already had their own business. So my first boyfriend, he already had started a business and sold it by the age of 25, and kind of already had his pension taken care of with that. So that was my first introduction to how things can be done differently. Instead of just saving money from your paycheck or living from paycheck to paycheck, you can also already start thinking about your pension at this age, which was something that was completely new for me. Then there was my best friend Masha, who was also an entrepreneur. She kind of like rolled into it and showed me that the biggest difference also between being an employee and having your own company, not that everybody should, start their own companies, but I think it's important to know
It's
that
the
difference,
mindset.
because it changed my perspective, is that your employee salary, no matter how high you climb in a company, is always capped by other people. Whereas if you have your own company, your salary is not capped. You can choose to earn as much money as you want to. And that was also something that was mind-boggling to me. And then my friend Claudia, who decided to travel the world, we both had worked for 3 years. So we literally started on the same day in the same firm. And 3 years later, she was able to travel the world and I wasn't. She did obviously save for that moment, but for me it was like, wait a minute, we've just been working for 3 years and you saved enough money to travel the world. How? So she literally taught me how to work with personal finance sheets, how to break down your finances, and how she was able to save a whole year's salary in only 3 years. And for me, those three people really, really changed my perspective on finances. And from that moment on, I took charge of my finances and was able to quit the corporate world as well 3 years later. So I
Wow.
think I always say mind the company you keep, because the people who you are surrounded with are really going to change you, and sometimes really for the worst, but a lot of times also for the better if you pick your friends wisely. And so how about you?
I totally agree with that, and it's very very interesting that you highlight that as well, because my I didn't have exposure to friends that were very entrepreneurial. There's one, and of course there's you, and I look really up to you. You started way ahead of me, and I had a lot of insights into how all this
Well,
thing
I'm 1 year
works.
older though.
Doesn't matter, you know.
For the
You
people
started
who
way.
don't know, no, I'm just joking, because
Sure.
probably a lot of people don't know that we are born on the exact same day,
Oh, true.
but I am 1 year older.
Yeah.
So Sinisha was my first and best birthday gift ever.
Aw, so sweet.
Yeah.
I enjoy sharing the birthday.
Yeah, same.
To get back on to the topic, so I definitely learned a lot from you in the years that you were running your YouTube channel and still are doing. The lots and lots of chats that we had. There's another friend here that really disliked the corporate world and did anything he could to get out of it, and he succeeded. Like, he genuinely worked very hard to get out of it, because his 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 or Mondays to Friday, he was like, that is definitely not me. So he's very successful in his own business, and I learned a lot from him. The thing that I think, in terms of my group and my the people around me, that I noticed was one thing. I never learned that actually peer pressure doesn't end in school, high school, or university. You know, those friends that you think, oh, you must smoke, or you must drink, or you must do this, or you must do that.
Yeah.
Actually, that continues in the working world as well. When I started off working, I would go out 4 times per week, always with my colleagues. And don't get me wrong, it's a fantastic experience. I loved it, but it did not, realistically, in long term, it did not get me to where I wanted. In fact, it was the opposite. At some point, I had a credit card debt of about 6 months of my monthly expenses,
Wow.
including rent, food,
Oh my God.
drinks, and all that stuff. And it didn't register to me that was a problem, because I was also earning a lot. But
Yeah.
just like at that time, I was doing exactly the same as my parents. I was earning a lot and spending, and actually spending slightly more than I should, ending up in that little snowball effect where I got to the point where those credit card bills were just stacking up for no particular reason. I wasn't creating value. I was just, spending and enjoying my time. I did not learn at that time, but I think the fact that it's very easy to be an employee versus running your own business makes it so that you can almost turn off your thinking and just get your month-to-month paycheck, spend whatever you want to spend. As long as you're not in really crazy financial trouble, you probably won't think about the future too much. And that, combined with being young, everything being exciting, earning good salary, and those kind of things, ended to where I got. And at that time, you kind of got me, or snapped me out of it, which was very nice. But which we can talk about as well, of what personal finance means to us, and freedom, because essentially you taught me how to be free. Which was it's pretty amazing. I mean, looking back.
Yeah, so I think that peer pressure is a very, very real thing. Even when you get out of high school, even when you are in the corporate world, you cannot underestimate the effect that your peers or the people who you surround yourself with have on you. And in your case, that can be a very unregistered negative spiral. And in my case, it was actually a very positive spiral. So mind the company you keep, and it might lead you to freedom, which is the last topic that we wanted to discuss in this podcast with regards to personal finance, because we both gained freedom by quitting the corporate world. We're not saying that everybody should quit the corporate world, because some people are very, very happy being employed and having a steady paycheck at the end of the month. But I do think that it's important to discuss what freedom means to you and what role personal finance plays in that. So if I can speak for myself, one of the biggest problems that I faced in the corporate world was the limited holiday days, because I was very young. I was 25 when I started working, and when I saw that Claudia was going to quit the corporate world and travel the world, I was like, but we have so many more options in our lifetime than our parents ever had in their lifetimes. I remember our mom also choosing to study economy or economics instead of psychology, what she really wanted to study, because she was scared that she wouldn't be able to find a job. You and I had never had to make that choice, which is an extreme privilege. No. In that moment, when I saw that Claudia was going to travel the world instead of, remaining in the corporate world, I really felt that I wasn't making the most out of the opportunities that the world that we live in now is offering to us. And if I did want to make the most out of that, I would have to get my personal finance in order, because funnily enough, when looking into how much it costs to travel, I realized that it's actually not as expensive as it used to be. A whole day in Thailand, including accommodation, food, even an average of transportation costs the same as an H&M dress. And that for me was like such a massive perspective shift, where I suddenly felt that, wait a minute, first of all, we have opportunities in this world that our parents never had. Why are we not taking advantage of that? Second of all, the things that I want to do, and one of my biggest dreams was to travel, are not as expensive as they used to be. So if I get my personal finance in order, if I just look into, okay, how long do I want to travel? How much is the daily average budget per country that I want to visit? If I add all of that up over a year, because I thought I would only be traveling for a year, how much does it actually cost? Because then at the end of the day, I have a price tag, and then I can actually start saving or investing for that price tag. And that was something that I really, really wish there was a course on in high school, because it's easier than ever in the world that we live in to accomplish the dreams that our parents there were just no opportunities for them to do that.
Yeah, it's a different day and age.
Yeah, definitely.
I definitely agree with that. And I think one of the things you really, really focused on was actually understanding how to set a goal and budgeting around it to make your goal really
Correct.
Valuable. Just on this podcast, I want to also say as well is that I genuinely don't believe that everyone should quit their job and start, being an entrepreneur or building their own business.
It's not necessary. That's
not
not
necessarily
the
at all.
point.
Exactly, and I wanted to say is that's not how I started either. Like when you spoke to me in, what was it, 2015?
Yeah.
In short, in 2015, basically, my sister held an intervention at a restaurant. We were just with the two of us, and the intervention was very short because I totally agree with her, meaning that I did see that there was a problem, but I didn't know where to start. So you taught me what you learned from Claudia is basically set a goal and get a budget and understand your income and expenses. And I was still fully employed, was an employee, had that debt of 6 months, and within 10 months of my own how do you say it, budgeting to the level that I feel comfortable on giving up how do you say it, not necessities but kind of like luxuries.
No, I think it's more swapping things up, because
swapping priorities as well.
I don't think I would have been able to do what I did if I would have given up all the luxuries that I love.
Then you don't live anymore, basically.
I kept my membership of a gym across the street, which was 4 times as expensive as the cheapest gym option that I could have gotten 20 minutes from my home. But I was like, no, I'm not going to cycle 20 minutes through the cold to pay, 4 times less than I'm doing now, because this gym is across the street, which means that I will go 5 times as much. So it's not about giving up things. It's more about swapping them for things, or just, I think, getting realistic in the things that you do need in your life and that you don't need in your life.
Well said. Yeah, I think it's that sense of realism that also makes it very, very important. Yeah, you traveled around the world, not just 1 year, but I think 2 years or 2.5
Yeah,
years
until
even.
last year, until COVID, I haven't spent
Yeah,
like 1 month at
at home.
home
Wow,
in the
amazing.
previous five
Yeah,
years.
that's
Yeah, and I
amazing.
think it's also that, when you achieve that, when I started traveling, suddenly you are living your dreams, and it's a very, very surreal feeling. So when you see somebody who you love and care about, obviously you, not living up to their potential, that was something that was really, really bothering me. And I never expected that when I sat you down in that restaurant and held that intervention, that you would be so open to what I
Of
had to say. I
course.
thought you were going to get super angry at me.
Honestly, by that time, if you have a debt on your credit card debt of 6 months of total in spendings in your month,
I never
you'll
knew
get
that.
pretty
Oh my
realistic.
gosh, that
No,
was
but yeah,
shocking to hear. I never knew that you had
yeah.
that.
But it's something that creeps up. But one of the things that really impressed me was, because you cared about me and you took the time to educate me, and because I respect you and I listen to you, and I've seen that it works because you've been traveling already for the past 5 years. I ended up doing the same thing and ended up erasing all my credit card debt in 10 months, and not just erasing it, but also having a emergency fund
Yeah, that
and
was
saving up to
yeah,
to quit my job.
yeah,
So I could have quit my job in 10 months or 11 months
yeah,
back then if I
yeah,
wanted to. I chose not to, and this is the second thing, because for me, freedom was also making sure I don't worry about money in that
yeah,
time. So
exactly.
I took another 2 years in total to make sure I got enough emergency fund, make sure I do some investments, make sure I am debtless and have good spending habits. And finally, I wanted to have fun. And in those
Yeah.
2 years, I still traveled 23 times while saving up for everything and being able to quit my job. So it was a complete shift. And that sense of freedom, being able to travel 23 times, almost pretty much every single month if I wanted
Yeah.
to, while not worrying about any kind of debts, while only looking at investments and kind of creating value while still being employed. Honestly, to me, that was already 95% of the freedom that I could wish for when it comes financially. Then the rest, like being self-employed, gave me a whole bunch of different types of freedoms as well. Huge, huge, huge difference that looking back, I think that was the pivotal moment.
And I think
Your intervention
that is
at
the
that time.
biggest, I think, takeout that people should take from this podcast. The fact that you haven't been taught personal finance in the education system, and probably
Yeah.
also have adapted the spending habits that your parents taught you, means that if
And peers.
at this point, at this point in your life, if you haven't looked at your personal finance and the things that you want to do, you're missing out on huge opportunities in life. You could be
Absolutely.
doing what you want to do if you just look at your personal finance and make sure that it's on track with the things that you want to do. But because we're not taught to do those things, we're just taught like, oh, have a paycheck, buy a house, get married, have children, not think beyond those options. We're actually really limiting the freedom that this new world has given us.
Absolutely.
And I think that's something that you and I are also trying to do. Obviously, I'm extremely grateful to the peers that I had in my life, my friends and my ex-boyfriend, who gave me a completely different perspective on personal finance and the things that I could be accomplishing in life. Then I did the same for you, because I was like, wow, I cannot sit here and just accept my brother spending every paycheck that he has on things that I know that are not important for him, and not working towards his dreams. And that's, I think, the motivation that you and I had to create a workshop for L.O.G Academy
Yeah.
called Fuss-Free Finance. For the people who don't know, we have started L.O.G Academy for this exact reason, because you and I both were completely clueless in the beginning on how to get started with not just personal finance, but how do you start working
Pretty
on
much
your dreams?
everything.
Yeah.
Pretty much everything.
Yeah, and that's why we started L.O.G Academy, because it's really aimed at the first beginning where you really don't know where to start. Our previous workshop was all about how do you set goals, and the same goes for the Fuss-Free Finance workshop. The idea behind it to just set up certain systems and give knowledge about personal finance, so other people can start working on their dreams as well, whatever those dreams may be.
I agree, and one of the things to really really add to it as well is like for those that paid attention. You could Google or YouTube again something called limiting beliefs. We'll
Very
touch on it
important.
later, but it's very, very important to understand at least that concept. But to touch upon the Fuss-Free Finance course, what I personally noticed in school is even if we had a math subject or something finance related or in university, it was never fun. It was never interesting. It wasn't...
You know why?
Engaging. Well, because it's school and the books are boring.
No, because they don't make that link to daily life. They literally oh, you go to a banana shop and you buy 50 bananas. Who goes to a banana shop and buys 50 bananas? Nobody. It's not relatable at all. Like how they're teaching you math is not relatable. I want to understand, like, what do I do with that math? How do I apply it in my daily life?
I hear you.
I made a mistake of buying a home at 25 years old and selling it at 32 years old, not understanding what an asset is. Nobody ever explained me what an asset is until I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I'm still pissed at myself. I'm pissed at myself that I sold that home and broke even, where now apartments in Amsterdam are selling for so much more. And I'm just pissed. I can't even explain to you how pissed I am about that. But yeah. Like the education system needs to oh my God, I can't even tell you in Chanel bags because it's like 500 Chanel bags.
No, I know what you mean. I genuinely understand what you mean. When I realized that if that my ticket to Taiwan is 6 weeks of Starbucks coffees, I was pissed at myself.
I know, right?
I could choose to not drink a coffee for 15 work days, and I would be in Taiwan.
Yeah.
It's a different world.
The accounting that is taught in schools is just so incredibly unrelatable to what you can do with it in daily life. And I think investments are something that I'm still learning about and still getting educated about on my own initiative. It is not something that was taught to me in school.
Same.
So we're just trying to share that knowledge that we've been getting because it has literally transformed our lives.
I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, we're in this together, and I genuinely believe that what we have experienced, what we've learned, all the mistakes we've made, I'm more than happy to share with people and work to see people, you know, be also successful in or get a type of financial freedom that they are really looking for. I think that is the number one thing. If you feel right now you don't necessarily have a sense of financial freedom, even if you're earning a lot of money, then there is a lot that you can do with working along changing your mindset, your perspective, and even the things that were small could end up, snowballing into something big and beautiful. We have our website, LOG-academy.com. So there will be more information there, and we will offer a Instagram-based course. It will be for 5 days, and we expect a maximum of 15, in terms of commitment and time, about 15 minutes of your time. And of course, if you want to spend more time on exercising, go for it. But we genuinely believe that within a 15 minutes of your active participation, we can give you a lot more than 4 or 8 years of school have ever given you. And we will be there as well. We'll answer questions through Q&As. We'll answer through DMs.
But wait.
And
maybe
also,
you should go to the beginning, because maybe people don't know how an Instagram workshop works.
Sure.
So first of all, we chose to use the platform Instagram because it's already embedded in your life. You probably already have an account and you probably already know how it works. So we like to save you the trouble and the time of going onto a separate platform, making a new account, learning how the platform works, yada, yada, yada. You don't need to do that because it's all on Instagram. So what happens during those 5 days, every single day, a new chapter will be uploaded. We also have a travel theme, which is Florence, because the Medici family were, funnily enough, very, very transformative for the banking system that we have today. So we do have that travel element as a background. Every single day, there's a chapter uploaded of about 20 up to 25 Instagram stories. and the total time of watching those Instagram stories is between 10 to 15 minutes. However, all the materials will be available until after 4 weeks after that workshop. So if you don't necessarily have the time during that week to watch everything, you can also binge watch everything during the weekend or maybe 2 weeks later. We really want to make it as easy as possible for you to integrate this workshop in your life and to get the information that you need to take charge of your dreams and your personal finances.
Oh,
Does
yeah,
that make
totally.
sense, Nish?
And just tell them about the live session as well.
Oh yeah, at the end, we will have a live session where we answer any kind of question that you might have in person. So during that week, whatever questions come up, obviously we will already be answering that. But at the end of that week, there's also a dedicated live session where we can go deeper into the questions that you have and answer any concerns that you might have regarding your personal finance and how to take that to a higher
So
level.
take it as a active online course with a coaching element to it.
So if you are interested in that workshop, you can head over to our website, and all the information that you may need on making a decision if you want to join us or not will also be there. We definitely hope this podcast already opened your eyes into how important personal finance is and what kind of differences it can make in your life. Nish, is there anything that you would like
You
to
can
add
find
to
us on
this?
Instagram as well, L.O.G Academy Official. So if you have any questions, we have you can shoot us a DM, and also you can send us an email and we'll work from that. Other than that, I really enjoyed it, and I look forward to our next podcast session.
Yeah, same.
Thank you as well.
Thank you so
It was really
much,
fun.
Nish. This was super
all right.
interesting.
Bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you guys. Bye.